Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing something a little different. We are passing a table into a stored procedure. So before we get started, you're probably wondering, why do you actually want to pass a table into a stored procedure in the first place? Well, let's look at this example over here. Okay, so what I have over here is a table with all different sporting codes and the age groups and the number of players in each of those. Okay, so what we have created now is this stored procedure, which is dbo.getNumbers. That takes in a sporting code or name and then an age group, and then it returns the actual rows from that particular table over there. Okay, so I've already created the stored procedure and I have these different instances over here. We are passing in tennis under 10, football under 10, and then tennis under 11. Okay, so let's run these and see what actually gets returned. And you can see we have 3 different result sets. There's under 10 we have 5 players, football under 10, 16 players, tennis under 11, 5 players. So now what if we wanted all of us to be returned in one result set? So there's a couple of things we could do. We could create a temp table and then execute each of these individually and then insert into a temp table, and then we do a select of that table at the end. That's one way of returning a result set of 3 rows. But that is quite a performance hit, especially if you're passing in 10,000 different variables and you're looking at a table that has like 1 million, 2 million rows. It's going to take quite a long time. So what you want to do is be able to pass in multiple values at the same time. Now you could pass in tennis, football, tennis, and then under here under 10, under 10, under 11. But that does become very confusing, and what I've seen in the past is that people have made mistakes where they might match football with under 11 instead of football with under 10 when they're passing in multiple over there. So you want to avoid that and look for a better way of actually doing this. So that brings us to TVPs, and TVPs are table value parameters. These are basically tables which are used as parameters for your stored procedure. So instead of passing in like this, we'll just pass in one table. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is create a new type, which I'm calling dbo.myTable, and this is going to be a table type. Now what do I mean by type? If you go to SQL on the side over here, under programmability, you have all these different types here. The normal types which you normally use. So bit, tiny int, big int. You've got your other ones as well, your character strings, varchar, and char as well. So these are all different types that you can declare your variables as. And I want to create my own type. So if you look at these ones over here, it says user defined data types. You have user defined table types. Let me just refresh this to show you what's in there, and you can see I've created my table, and my table is this over here. So you can actually see, if you look at this definition, it's a table and it has sport and age group as per this specification that I've created over there. So now what I can do is I can actually declare a variable of type my table, which will then be a table with these columns in it. And it's going to be a table variable, which means it's in memory. You don't worry about TimDB being used much. It's very lightweight, especially if it's very small. So from what I've seen, it's not really a big performance hit. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use this type and I'm going to create a new stored procedure, which I'm going to call dbo.getNumbersMulti. And you can see this one's a bit different. I'm actually passing an @table, and the type for @table is dbo.myTable. And then we put read only. You have to specify this when using TVPs. I don't know why, but that's just the way it is. And when it goes in there, you can actually see that I'm selecting from sport, but I'm joining onto @table, which is this table variable that I've created over there. And this is my TVP. And it's literally joining on T-sport equal S-sport and T-age group equal S-age group. So the nice thing with this is that I can pass in 3, I can pass in 5, I can pass in 10, pass in 10,000, and it will just do a join like any other join in SQL. Okay, so how do I actually use this particular stored procedure? So what I have here is I am declaring a variable. The variable is @tab and it is of type dbo.myTable. I'm then inserting into @tab the values which I want to pass into my table, which then automatically get passed into my proc. And then here you can see I'm actually calling my stored procedure and I'm passing my table in as the parameter. I'm just going to highlight this and you can see I'm passing in football under 10, tennis under 9. And if I run this, you can now see that I have one result set with football under 10 and 16, tennis under 9 and 4. So TVPs don't get used that much, but what I have found is there's a couple of times where people have created these stored procedures and it has to pass in multiple parameters. And so what they do is instead of having to change it to a TVP, they actually just put it into a loop, and that loop goes around 10,000 times or 10 times or 1,000,000 times, which means that execute that stored procedure the number of times they're going through that loop. So if you going through a loop 10,000 times, that's 10,000 executions. That's not good performance. As opposed to using a TVP, you're passing in a table value parameter, you pass in all your values, and it returns everything in one query. It's literally just one select statement, and you get one result set coming back. And I've used that to improve performance of store procedures, which were looping, and it was taking 10 minutes to run. And by using this, it went down to 13 seconds. So it's a huge performance hit, especially when you consider that you've taken out that whole looping process. Another thing I also tried was to actually create a table variable and then try to pass it in via ADO.NET or via Dapper. I didn't get that to work. I don't know if it's an issue in the code or maybe it's just a problem with me. I think it's probably just me. But if you have figured out a way to use .NET to actually pass the table into a store procedure, let me know in the comments. What I have done is I've passed in XML. That allowed me to pass in multiple things, or I can just pass in individual values. Whichever works for you, you choose. So that brings us to the end of this video. Please remember to click on that like button and click on subscribe and the bell notification so that you're updated on new videos as they get uploaded. And remember to go to batechpro.com if you want to see everything that's been uploaded and look at a couple of blog posts. And there's a couple of new content that I'll be posting on that site as well. So remember to subscribe to the newsletter as well. That's it from me. I'll see you in the next video. See ya.